Okay, people, I got a 2 o'clock
Hello,
appointment.
I'm Tony Spearman-Leach, and welcome to a new edition of Montgomery Week in Review. Today we will discuss a recent case in Florida that ended with a conviction of attempted murder, but had no result for the charge of first-degree murder. This current stand your ground case was used as a defense for the defendant who actually got off of not being convicted of first-degree murder. Today we have with us Henry Hailstock, who will discuss here on Montgomery Week in Review the thoughts about the jury's verdict and why this is such a prevailing issue in our community. Today we will also share with you the exciting June primary that is coming up for all of us. We know we've had many candidates file, and today Linna Barnes will discuss with all of us the exciting, engaging events that will occur among the numerous debates and the numerous issues that they will tackle. Also, we will be bringing you information from the Latino Public Safety Work Group. You may not know that it's been in operation for 3 years here in Montgomery County and has many issues that it tackles. Today, Henry Montes will tell us about its current goals and its current issues and how they're impacting all of us here in Montgomery County. Finally, we have a new and exciting novel called The Partner Track. It's by Washington, D.C. attorney Helen Wan, and it deals with the issue of the bamboo ceiling. Here to discuss this very important issue is Shu-Ping Chan of the U.S. Asia Links organization. Again, we have a lot of exciting issues to bring you. And first, we're going to start off with our wonderful guest, Henry, to talk about this really distressing issue of the stand your ground cases. We know that we're at the anniversary of Trayvon Martin. We thought we would be over with this as a nation. Obviously, we're back where we started.
Well, you're optimistic. I'm pessimistic because I didn't think we would be over for it after Trayvon Martin, because looking at some of the gun laws in Florida, to me it's just utterly ridiculous. And I really have a problem. I'm not a lawyer, but I really have a problem with that jury being hung on the first-degree murder. Now, I heard some of the definitions from my colleagues here on how the intent for first-degree murder, but I still have a problem with that. I know that he has been convicted on other charges, and he will be spending practically his entire life in jail, but it's the symbolism of what occurred with this young gentleman. First of all, he's in a parking area,
Right.
where he, getting food or sitting around with his friends, enjoying a time. And yes, they had the music up loud.
Playing, that's right.
But who is Michael Dunn to come up and tell him that his music is too loud? If it was too loud and violated ordinance, why didn't he call the police? That's the first thing. Secondly, he has that gun, okay? He feels empowered. He uses an excuse of, saying that he was threatened, but he started it in the first place. The teenagers were in there enjoying themselves, enjoying the music, and who was he to interrupt them? Maybe they did get a little indignant because he got indignant to them. They were just sitting there, minding their own business, enjoying their time. He sprays them with bullets.
Saying it's 10 bullets, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and they showed the bullet holes in the SUV.
That's right.
Now, I'm not in his mind, but obviously, he had some problems with African American teenagers.
Well, I think that's the issue because he's seeing teenage kids, loud music, expensive SUV, and the stereotypes come to him and say these must be criminals or gangsters or drug dealers,
Right.
and because he is empowered with a gun, he feels that he has the right to go there and check out the situation.
But I mean, my basic problem is, why does he feel empowered? I mean, what gives anybody the right?
Linna,
I know.
you have white people in certain areas that feel that they're empowered or over-empowered over certain races and people, okay? And particularly African Americans. Florida was the last state to really relinquish their slavery. And unfortunately, in this nation, we still have some states that have slavery laws still on the books.
Well, I
Maryland being one of them. I don't know if you knew
It's
that.
not been outlawed. It's
Yeah.
technically
But I
has not
think
been
that's one
outlawed.
of the questions we have to ask. Had it been non-African American gentleman in the car, would he have gone up and sprayed the car with 10 bullets?
Now, obviously, I'm going to say no, primarily because I don't believe anyone would approach the white teenagers with that problem. Okay, and I've seen a lot of teenagers in my community who happen to be white driving along with their music very loud, you know, and in my community they're driving BMWs, Mercedes, and everything else, and as they say on the record, leaning back, you know, in their gangster machine, and nobody bothers them there. But if they were in Florida, I don't think they'd still be bothered. But put an African American in that, you know, in that same situation is a problem. Now, the NAACP several years ago, when we had this initial problem of driving while black, you know, we gave them an example of a gentleman who happened to be a retired psychologist, coming from a tennis match, having his sweats on, okay? And, you know, obviously I've done this, had his cap turned around, driving a beautiful, I believe it was at that time a Jaguar coupe, you know, low, and, you know, playing his music, enjoying the time. The police stopped him. The police pulled him out of the car, threw him on the ground. He happened to be a grandfather, African-American grandfather, who was doing nothing but driving his car, leaning, enjoying the time. It was in, you know, it was during the summer. You know, the police had no reason to stop him. The same thing happened in Florida.
Well, also with a professor, Harvard professor, who was breaking into his own house.
Yes, exactly.
Because he lost his
We're
key.
going to have to
Yes.
move on just to get into the discussion. I want to come back to this.
Okay.
But we do have to get forward and say, you know, this is going on in Florida. It's impacting all of us across the nation. And as we're seeing this, we have elected officials that should be accountable for issues like this.
Should be.
And of course, we are now dealing with this as we're moving forward here in Maryland with our upcoming elections, with our responsible people. And Linna, you are the lady in the know in this county.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That was a great segue, Tony. I'm impressed. Yes, we do have elections coming up, and it'll be interesting to see if any of these questions come up in the debates and forums that we all know will follow. The elections are in June. This past Tuesday was the final filing date, so that the primary ballots are set now. In Montgomery County, there are no contested Republican races. So the Republicans, when they go to vote on their ballot, they will not have any races that will be decided because of that. On the other hand, the Democratic ballot is going to be full of races. There are a lot of contested elections in this county, from the county executive, where there are 3 Democrats running, Ike Leggett, Doug Duncan, Phil Andrews. Those are the 3 Democrats. And then Jim Shalek is running as a Republican. So there'll be that. There are, I think, 6 Democratic county council at large people running. There are also 2 Republicans and 1 Green candidate, and those aren't contested. But you have to get down to 4, so you will have that. And then all the county, well, no, one county council district seat is not contested. That's Nancy Navarro. But the other ones are all contested. So it'll be, just in the county, those county elections, it'll be very full.
I remember just a couple of cycles ago, there were rarely any contested primary seats on the Democratic side. What do you think has made this change, that so many candidates are running now?
Well, it's an interesting question, because it's not, you used to always have it if there was an open seat.
Right.
That would happen.
Right.
And that's District 5, where Valerie Irwin resigned. Her seat is being contested. But Phil Andrews is running for county executive, so his seat is open now. That's the Rockville Gaithersburg, and that one's contested. Then 2 other ones.
Yeah, years ago you never challenged an incumbent, but now everyone's challenging incumbents.
Exactly. So District 1, that's Roger Berliner and Dutchie Trachtenberg, who was formerly on the county council, and now she's running for a district seat. And then there's also the Western County seat is being contested. So I don't know why it's changed. Certainly, you also have the delegate races and
Those
the
are
Senate
huge.
races.
Absolutely.
many of those are contested, but all of the ones most of the ones are open seats. So that's 7 out of the 8 delegates of the districts. There are 8 districts in Montgomery County. 7 of those have races, and I think 3 have open seats.
I'm glad. I'm glad to see the contesting of some of the seats, because it's too often that we take for granted some things, and we feel that okay, business as usual. I'm glad people are stepping up, saying I'm not satisfied with certain things, and I'm going to run, and will give the general public more opportunity to understand the issues and to see who best will represent them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in terms of getting the vote out.
Yes.
Because if it's kind of a done deal,
Yes.
people say, well, why go vote? But when you have contested seats, then people have to really consider, do I really want this person or that person?
And it's interesting because I do think this year is, we've always talked about in Montgomery County how there weren't a lot of minority people elected. Well, there are many, many more minorities
Absolutely.
running. So that'll be really interesting to see what the end results of the
But
in
it's
June.
so hard. The only thing I have a concern with is that the candidates have to come up with so much money to basically run.
That's true.
And when you have some people who happen to be a minority that want to run, they find it difficult to raise the money necessary to run a good campaign.
It's a big barrier.
And-
Let's
and
remember,
that's the key.
we have an elected official who actually has put forward a proposal for public funding at a local level for elections to resolve this.
Right.
But I think what you've brought up as a side issue, this whole issue of the minority engagement and the actual election activities, is very, very important. Everybody has to remember out there in Montgomery County, for the first time, we are a majority minority county. And so we are now going to wait to see the impact on the actual elections.
Right, because there was a time when there really were very few, maybe 1 or 2 delegates out of the 30, out of 24. Ike Leggett, who was the first Black County Council
Absolutely.
member, he was always, he was elected, but there wasn't a lot of diversity. I think that's changing, and certainly with a majority minority county, it will change.
Absolutely. And so these are the things that I think that all of us have to really pay attention to here in Montgomery County. And now I'd like to share with you that we'll be back after these messages. Thank you for joining us again. And next we'd like to talk with Henry Montes. You work with the Latino Public Safety Work Group, which obviously many people don't even realize has been here for 3 years in Montgomery County. Tell us about what your goals and purposes are, and what are those issues that you're tackling at this time?
Well, thank you, Tony. The Latino Public Safety Work Group has been around about a little over 3 years, actually, but I chair it. I was a member of the Latin American Advisory Committee to the county executive, and this is a work group of that larger group.
Excellent.
We started it because for a while there, we were attending the Chief of Police Latino Liaison Committee meeting, and it became rather contentious because other people were coming in and being disruptive, really, at that time about the immigrant issues. At any rate, so we started our community group, which is the Public Safety Work Group, and the point is to meet once a month with the law enforcement officials of the county, the sheriff, the chief of police, the state's attorney's office representative, the director of corrections, and every once in a while we get the chief of police from Gaithersburg. And the point is to meet with them, to have a forum for discussion about critical issues that are affecting the Latino community and law enforcement. Over the years, we've been able to resolve some issues that have been kind of hotly contested within the county and the community. And what brings me here, besides talking about our kind of getting into how we operate, is to talk about a couple of points that are legislation being considered in Annapolis. One is the bill that's looking at the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights and attempting to provide more obstacles from our point of view of trying to discipline rogue police officers by management having certain prerogatives taken away.
Is it true that I heard that Chief Manger is opposed to this
Yes.
piece of legislation?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Yes, he is.
You know, I first learned of this last Thursday when I read it in the Washington Post in the editorial section, and then sent an email to both the Senate, Senator Frosch, and to Delegate Dumais, who are both the sponsors of their respective bills, and basically telling them that, you know, it's not a good idea. And in that process, I learned just what's going on now with the law enforcement officer Bill of Rights. They did an analysis of the current activities, and it is so much of a complicated process that management would take years
So
to really get a
if
discipline
it
done.
passes, it will make it that much harder to discipline any police misconduct. is
Yes,
that
it's
right?
like I said, it was another obstacle in terms of the processes they need to follow.
But I think that really the people here in Montgomery County want to understand, how does this affect what you're doing here with the Latino
Right.
Public Safety Work Group?
That's-
How does this really impact what's going on?
Well, what we've had in the past are situations where there's certain policies of the department that a rogue officer went against when it came to undocumented immigrants and the Latino community, and was harassing them, and basically got the guy deported when it shouldn't have happened. And on the other hand, there have been some officers who dealt with Latino youth. And when Henry was talking about the situation in Florida, it's not quite that bad, but it is a harassing kind of situation.
Yes.
When you have youth having to pull up their shirts to show their tattoos and taking pictures of them and so on. And
So wait, you're telling me that here in Montgomery County, the county that has suddenly become a majority minority county largely because of the Latino community, that we have this going on in our own backyard, and it's going on down here in Florida. That's really what you're telling me you exist on.
Yes, you have, and it's still
Well-
going on with African Americans too. I'll give you a good example. It just happened the other day. My son got stopped because supposedly he was using his phone without a earpiece. The police stopped him. My son was outraged because he's trying to, get to work and do his job, and he gets stopped for that. And he called me up because he knew I probably would hear about it by calling the police because I know the police. And he said, Dad, this police stopped me. He's really, really I can't use the term he used. He says, I don't understand. I was not using the phone, without an earpiece and all.
But he was driving while black.
Yes.
All right,
and
and so now we got driving while Latino.
well,
Or walking
while
walking while-
there's a whole process that
Yes.
goes on called stop and frisk, and if people have been reading the news, New York just came out with a new protocol with regard to stop and
Yes.
frisk, and we've been working with the chief on that same issue, and as a matter of fact, we had the Latino Youth Collaborative, which was a major effort in the county. And from that, recommendations came out, and one of those was to modify their stop and frisk policies. And we are, the Latino Public Safety Work Group, the monitors to see how that policy moderates over time.
That's what I wanted the people out there to know. Now we're going to have to move forward because just as we're dealing with these very important issues and the elected officials who are going to be held accountable for them, we've got the issue of the bamboo ceiling.
Well, we're talking about, Tony, we're talking about stereotypes, and
Absolutely.
the issue, the bamboo ceiling is a phenomenon. There was a recent novel came out by DC
Oh,
based
wait,
on
hold on,
Helen
before you
Wan.
go any further.
Yes, sir.
There can't be a bamboo ceiling because you've got a CEO of Microsoft. Asians are running the world, so how can there be a bamboo ceiling? Help us understand.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
well,
Hold me
these
down.
are stereotypes that we need to, fight. Whether it's not as life and death as what the two Henrys are talking about in terms of stopping, frisking, driving while black, walking while Latino, whatever. But we want to fight stereotypes regardless of where they are. Yes, but if you look at the numbers are not proportional. The numbers are very low. Yes, we have the Indian American who's the head of Microsoft now.
right.
There's about, I think, half a dozen CEOs who are Asian American of the Fortune 500, and about 2-3% of the Fortune 500 boards of directors are Asian American.
It's minuscule.
minuscule, 3% Latino, about 7-8% African American. Definitely not proportional to the
Overall
size of the
population.
population of each of those communities. So it's still very, very minuscule, as you say. But for Asian Americans, there's the ceiling that you can sort of look above, the glass ceiling, you can see it, but you can't reach it, attain it. And the novel, the partner track, it talks about the idiosyncratic cultural issues at large law firms. It's a novel, but based on reality, of course, of the things that you have to do to sort of fit into that corporate culture, whether it's a large bank, a large corporation, a large law firm, what have you, and things that people have to, weave through to fit in so that you can join the right clubs or go to the right meetings so that we know each other, so that you can be promoted to the high levels in corporate America. So we're fighting the stereotypes. These are the stereotypes that exist, and it's written by Helen Wan, Asian American woman. So all of those things weave together, whether it's gender, racial, whether it's personal idiosyncrasies. I mean, you come from a family that doesn't want to stir waves, then tendency when you go to corporate America, you won't do that.
Back when you had to fit in, you had to, understand the corporate environment and fit into it, even if it was wrong. Now, we're saying and we're fighting, even if you're qualified, why should we fit into something that really is not necessarily other than our skills and abilities, and that's it. I don't play. I do play golf, but let's say I don't play golf, so I don't go to the country club. I don't like certain foods, so why should I go out to lunch, and eat with you? These are all the things that they take into consideration, and unfortunately, it's things you have to fight. And I know that now that we're trying to crack the bamboo ceiling,
whatever
the glass ceiling. Is still a fight because they will bring up one person, but keep the others down.
But it's really interesting. I mean, I think it's a strain throughout American history. When you look at it, that the immigrant discrimination, Irish, Italian, Jewish, it seems to progress along, and it's always someone else being held down. And I don't know if it's almost ingrained that you have to find somebody to hold back.
I don't know.
It
could be human nature.
It's a humanistic trait, and the reason why it's now geared to the Latinos and the African Americans, and in some cases the Asian population, is that we stand out, and that's the thing.
That's the difference. You can see more.
Yes, it's easily identifiable because, as you know. I forgot the name of the books that had the imitation of life, where we were light, so therefore we were white, and we could pass through, or that we looked like we were Jewish. So Gentleman's Affair. I'm trying to think of there was a Gregory Peck movie. Yes.
Well, I think one of the phenomena that I think it goes back to an old philosophical thing that I learned, and that is like generates like. And when you have people in those positions of power, and all happen to be white men, then what they're looking for is something like them. And so the change happens as a person breaks through that ceiling once, and then change gradually. But it's not that easy to break through the ceiling.
It takes time. It takes time.
I hate to interrupt all of you. I'd like to leave you with a final thought. It was Henry Ford who did his great societal or sociological training for new immigrants who came in to work for the Ford Motor Company. And I'd like to leave you with the thought that America's always embraced this whole idea of assimilation rather than the multicultural mosaic. And that is where we're headed to this future. Montgomery County is the multicultural mosaic, and we're going to end up there, and it's going to be painful. Anyway, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this week, and I would like to welcome you to return next week for a new edition of Montgomery Week in Review. Again, I'm Tony Spearman-Leach. I thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to you joining us again next week at this same time. Take care.